Now we come to the virtual terminal. What is the virtual terminal and who is that virtual terminal for? Is it for that merchant that accepts bills in the mail, or is it for that merchant that wants to swipe their credit cards? Quite honestly, it's for both. For that merchant that accepts bills in the mail, they send the invoices out to their clients. They receive the invoices back. In those invoices has their credit card data. They're going to take that credit card information and key it into the virtual terminal. Or it could be for that merchant that simply takes phone payments. They answer the phone, the customer gives them the credit card information over the phone, and they key that information into the virtual terminal. It can also be for that merchant that, say, has a laptop or a monitor at the front of their store. They can place this on the side of their laptop or on the monitor at the front of the store and take swipe transactions. So really the virtual terminal is very versatile in its uses and what it can be used for in the merchants. For further information about that, contact your sales manager or watch this demo.
Okay, the first thing we do when we get a new merchant set up, they're going to get their username and password. They'll log into the screen. It will look like this. And we'll walk them through their options, setting up their options before they do anything else. So they'll come down here to options and settings. The first one that usually they need to do is set up secondary users. As the primary user, they can have up to 200 additional users. So as a primary user, I'm logged in here. I'm the admin user. I come in here, I click here to add new user, and I type in that new user's information. Let's see. I create the username. Down here, I will give them access to whatever they need permission for. Now, I can either give them complete access to the virtual terminal, or if this is a newer user, newer employee, and I want to restrict what they're going to do, I might want to come down here and drill down to just credit cards and only give them access to run sales and nothing else. You can give them access to transaction reports or remove transaction reports. I can give them access to other users' transactions or remove that. So if I did this way, they would only be able to see their transactions. That's a real common setting. And then under notifications, I can choose whether or not they're going to get a copy of every receipt, if they're going to get nothing, if they need to get the end of day report, the settlement summary. And then I just come down here and click create user. And that would send an email to that person. Hopefully Jane at My Business doesn't exist. And they'd receive a username and a link to set their password. Over here to user accounts, you can see here that I'd have my list of users. If I needed to change it, I could come in here and change it. As a primary user, I would reset their password, or resend the user welcome email. And I can also come in here and just delete that user. Another common setting is merchant-defined fields. Another common option, excuse me. Under merchant-defined fields, when the merchant runs a transaction, they have the option to capture information. So the information may be customer ID number. And I also may want to capture customer's birthday. Or I can also do checkboxes, radio select. Maybe add to mailing list with a checkbox. So they can do up to 20 custom fields. They can come over here, they can run the sale. And down here at the very bottom, you'll see where the merchant-defined fields are. So on the sales, you'll notice that the top 3 pieces of information with the red asterisk on them are required. Everything else is completely optional. Now, I may be a retail business, and I look at a shipping address and say, this is just a lot of junk. It's going to confuse my employees. So what I can do is come over here and say, you know what? They'll never, ever need to see any of this information. Okay. And they don't need any of the shipping stuff. It's just a bunch of nonsense that'll just get in their way. When I come over here and I hit save, you'll notice that this is all around a little bit. And if I decide, you know what, I do want them to be able to get the capture the tax amount, I can unhide it. It's not like I removed it completely and it's gone. So they can customize what they're going to see on the screen every time, so that it's not in their way, not confusing them. The credit card number again is required. If you want to gray this number out, it's a test number, so it's not a big deal. It's a prepaid card. Probably better if you cut that part out though. And my amount. Card security code. Again, not required. Now, if the merchant wants this to be required, or they want the order ID, or even a merchant-defined field, they want customer ID number to be a required field. Transaction will not go without it. We can do that for them. So on setup, that we can give them those options. They'll come through here and give the information. You can actually have pre-defined items with pricing. So I should show you that first. Not good at this one yet. This is a new product. Okay. So I come in here and I create my categories. This is optional. They don't have to do this, and we don't have a lot of merchants doing it yet. So my category may be shoes, and save. Of course, you can do a bunch of crap categories there. Products, new item, SKU number. That's something that you create. Usually they'll use their UPC code, but whatever. Brown shoe. And tax, discount, whatever is on there. And I can do black shoes. Now you notice there's not sizes in here, so this is not meant to be a detailed inventory list. This is not a POS system at all. So now I can come back over here to my sale. When I'm under my sale, I can actually choose the SKU number. Or I can say black shoes. And they're going to have 3 of them. So here's your total. And once I click this button, it sets the amount. So if somebody's got a very limited inventory, this is a great way for them to be able to put that in there and not have to add it up and type it in. But they're not going to want to get 1,000 items in there, because you can see you got a hand key each item. Alright, so moving on, I'm going to hide this information because we don't really want this. Just going to add confusion. Now I can go in here and I can create my card number, and I hide the card number 747. Amount's already in there. Awesome. Card security code. Now a couple things on this down here. A lot of people use order ID for an invoice number, but it's gonna be Bob Doe, and if I want to put his email address on it, I can say bob@bob.com. The reason why I'm saying that, put in their customer number. Add them to the mailing list. Now, down here at the bottom, right before I hit charge, I can hit send receipt by email. And what that's going to do is it will send bob@bob.com, whatever number I put in here, that receipt. And the transaction was declined. That's awesome, because this is not supposed to decline, but great. Oh yeah, I would give that amount. Anyways. So that's what the transaction would look like. Now I can do other things like an authorization only, capture, voids, refunds. I'm not going to get into that too much. Another option, recurring payments. Recurring is when I have the same frequency. I have the same frequency for the same amount. So if I've always got $19.95 on the first of the month, or $29.95, so the the time frame and the amount have to stay consistent. First thing I'd do is I come in here and I'd add a plan. So my plan may be say it's a storage unit place, a 20-foot unit. Oops. You can cut that out, right? Amount to charge each time would be $19.95. Say it that way. And I want to say charge the customer on the 3rd of every 1 month. And I'm going to charge this customer until it cancels. Or I could say, if this is a payment plan, I could say charge the customer 4 times. So after 4 times of charging, I'm going to have to come back in here and redo it. Alright, and then give it a plan name. This might be a 20-foot unit and a plan ID. Really, this is going to be, most of the time, just a made-up number for them. Or if they have an internal tracking number, that's fine. Hit save. Now, so I create my plans. It might be gold plan, silver plan, red plan, blue plan, whatever it is. Different plans, which is the pricing, how much does it cost, and how frequent does it charge. Then I come over here and I add people to the plan. So I add subscribe, this credit card number. This expiration date. I type in the customer's information as much as I have. Maybe his email address. Oops. Sorry. Customer ID number. Bob123. I always want to send Bob a receipt by email, so I hit continue. And then I'm going to choose the plan. So right now I've only got one plan in there, so I choose a 20-foot unit. I choose to start charging him on, he's not going to charge until March 2015. Now if I didn't have a plan here that I liked or that I needed, I could always go here and create a new billing plan specifically for Bob. So those that wouldn't be a different amount for each person. If I've got, I don't know, there's times where they don't have a preset plan. They just create a plan for each person. There you go. And I save. Now what it's going to do is always charge Bob the 20-foot unit on March 3rd, 2015. So it'll automatically sit there and charge that merchant, or that customer, the amount, was it $19.95 on the 3rd of every month. Or I can come in here and say, nope, I want to remove that. I could change plans. I could change plans if I wanted to, if I had a list of plans. I could skip a date, say, nope, I need to start charging in May. Okay. Or I could just come in here and just delete the whole thing, because I don't need that really. Customer vault. I've got a customer that needs me to store their credit card information. Of course, that needs, for PCI purposes, that has to be done securely. So I come in here and I create a vault ID. Now the vault ID, you want to be something that the merchant would use to look up that customer. So if I know my customers by first and last name, that's what I'll want to use for my vault ID. If I know them by a customer ID number, that's what I'd want to use for my vault. If I know them by company name. So the vault ID is going to be made up by, determined by what the merchant would use to look them up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's my customer ID number. Or I know this guy as John Doe. That's how I know him, so that's how I want to be able to look him up. And I give him a credit card number. I get his current credit card number. I type in all the information that I have on him. Again, this information is optional, but it makes it easier to track him down later on. Shipping information, again, I could change this form by hiding this here. But shipping information, I get my customer ID number. It's the same as, could be the same as the Vault ID. And I hit submit. And I can sit here and continue to add customers all day long. So now when I'm ready to charge this guy, let's say, this guy has an invoice, he needs to pay it, and he says, charge that card that I have on file. I type in what I know about him. So this guy's last name is Doe. Or I type in what I know about whatever his vault ID was. Whatever I can do to find this guy. And I'll get his vault information right here. You can see here where I can change the merchant defined fields every time if I wanted to. It's handy if it's something like invoice number. You need multiple invoice numbers like that on it. But all I got to do when I want to charge that card is I hit this little credit card sale, and all of his card information is there. It's secure, it's encrypted, but it's saved. And this one's going to decline because it's a demo card. Alright. One of the other things I can do is I can invoice that customer. So I have Bob Doe owes me $2,000. And it's due within 60 days. I type in any information I have for him again. Again, all this stuff is optional, just like it always is. But his email address is not optional this time. And type in any information that I have on it, and I hit create invoice. What that will do is it'll send him an invoice with a description of, you owe me this amount of money, click here to pay that invoice. So when I click here to pay that invoice, it will take me to a credit card screen where I can type in my credit card information, and once it's paid, I get a report over here saying this is what's paid. It'll also tell me all the outstanding ones that are paid, ones that are not paid. Basically a quick way to invoice them. You have the option of adding a mobile payment device to it, which is on your cell phone. I can swipe a transaction on my cell phone, and it will send that transaction to my virtual terminal. Handy for a towing company. They got or a plumber. They got people out in the field. They can run the transaction, pay the invoice right there on the spot with the customer. And back here at the back office, I'll have everything together in my virtual terminal, all under one report. You also have, that's the mobile payments. Some of these things like invoicing, mobile payments, swipe software is optional. Swipe software is where I can put a swiper on a Windows computer and swipe transactions right there, making it kind of a poor man's POS, a cost-effective POS system, or whatever word you guys want to use. You know what I'm trying to say, though. Swipe the card and it sends the transaction directly to the VT. Some of the other options in here, it will do QuickBooks reporting. Basically, it will take any transactions that were settled during a certain date range and export them in a QuickBooks format. So it's still a manual export, and then you have to import it into QuickBooks, but it's there. Reporting, it's got some very robust reporting. I can group everything by, do a snapshot where everything's grouped together, so I'm going to see settlement batches and such. Or I can come down here to search transactions and search for specific transactions. And here's the transactions I've tried to run today. I can also get the details on those transactions. See, who ran it, where did they run it. If you can gray out that IP address, it's probably a good idea. I could also come back up here and rerun the sale. If it was a settled transaction, I could refund or void it. Quick click, and we don't want to mess with that. Don't even point that out. And once I'm done, I can just log out, and I'm done for the day.